Okay, I'm doing a review from this book, Introduction to Probability and Statistics by Mendenhall. And I'm going to this section here about probability and probability distributions. So, first of all, they talk about what they mean by an experiment. So they say data are obtained by observing either uncontrolled events in nature or controlled situations in a laboratory. So when you're talking about data and experiments, you're either going to just have to watch what happens outside. For example, if you want to know whether smoking causes cancer, you can't make people smoke. So you have to just watch what happens. On the other hand, there are some times when you can design an experiment in a laboratory. We use the term experiment to describe either method of data collection. An experiment is the process by which an observation or measurement is obtained. So that sounds a little abstract, but for example, we could say that tossing a coin is an experiment, and then you check to see whether it's heads or tails. Or rolling a die is an experiment, and you check to see how many dots appear on the top. Recording a test grade, measuring daily rainfall. So you go out and you have some instrument that measures how much rain falls in one day, and you go and you check it. So that's an experiment. Interviewing a householder to obtain his or her opinion on a greenbelt zoning ordinance. So you interview people and you see what they say. That could also be called an experiment. So we have an experiment, for example, rolling a die, and then we talk about the outcomes of the experiment, what can happen in that experiment. So we talk about simple events versus what they call compound events. So here's an experiment. Toss a die and observe the number that appears on the upper face. List the simple events in the experiment. So a simple event is the outcome that is observed on a single repetition of the experiment. So if you roll a die, you ask what can happen, and they say you can either get a 1 or a 2 or a 3. So these are called the simple events. Getting a 1 is called a simple event. Getting a 2 is called a simple event, and so on. And so those are called the simple events. And then they define just an event in general. An event is a collection of simple events, often denoted by a capital letter. So here they say the event of observing an odd number, or the event of observing a number less than 4. So that's a collection of, for example, observing an odd number is a collection of the simple events. Which simple events? This one, a 1, a 3, or 5. Okay, so that's a collection of simple events, and so they call it an event. Or the event of observing a number less than 4. That's also a collection of simple events, so it's called an event. So a number less than 4 means a 1, or a 2, or a 3, or not a 4. It's not 4 is not less than 4. Okay, so here they say B, this event, consists of these simple events. Two events are mutually exclusive if when one event occurs, the other cannot, and vice versa. So, for example, the event of getting an odd number and the event of getting an even number. So here we talked about the event of getting an odd number. We could also talk about the event of getting an even number. So those cannot occur at the same time. What that means is if you roll a single die, you can't get both an odd number and an even number, right? On the other hand, these two events, A and B, so the event of getting an odd number and the event of getting an even number are mutually exclusive. But these two events are not mutually exclusive. They can happen at the same time, meaning if you roll a die, if you get a 2, if you get a 3, then you would say that this event occurred. That is, you'd say you got an odd number because 3 is an odd number. And you would also say that this event occurred because you got a number which is less than 4. So these two events, it's possible for them to occur together. It doesn't mean they always occur. For example, if you get a 2, you would say that event B occurred, but you wouldn't say that event A occurred. But it's possible that they can occur at the same time. Therefore, they are not mutually exclusive. Another example would be like, it's impossible for me to be in Tokyo, in Shinjuku Station, and at the same time be in Grand Central Station in New York. Those are mutually exclusive. They can't happen at the same time. Okay, now the next definition is the set of all simple events is called the sample space. So going back to up here, here we had an experiment which was toss a die and observe the number that appears on the upper face. List the simple events in the experiment. So these are the simple events that can occur. You can get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. So the set of all the simple events altogether is called the sample space. Okay, that's the set of all possible things that can happen, the set of all possible outcomes from the experiment. So they made a kind of a Venn diagram here, and we said that when we toss a die, you can get event 1 was getting a 1, event 2 denotes getting a 2, event 3 denotes getting a 3, and so on. So these are all the simple events, and there are 6 of them. This A is not, it's just, that's the name of this set. B is the name of the set. Those are not simple events. These are the simple events with the dots. Okay? And then we said we did define an event A, which was what? Getting an odd number. And what are the ones that are, what are the simple events that are in here? E1, E3, and E5 all mean that you got a number, an odd number. So we say we can draw a circle around them, or some shape around them, and say that that represents the event A. And then the event B is here. That was getting a number less than 4. So here we see the event A and the event B, and we can see that A and B are not mutually exclusive, because if you get a 1, then A has occurred because you got a number, an odd number, and B has occurred because you got a number less than 4. So it means that A and B can occur at the same time. So we can see that if you draw this kind of picture and you see that they have some intersection, it means that they're not mutually exclusive. Okay?